Buenas queridas, we made it back to another season of the BEAM&Flow podcast. I'm your host, Chloé Cofresí, and we are in season 11 of the show all around aligning your body, energy, awareness, movement, and bringing all of that into flow. So this season, we are talking about perspective shifts, vision shifts, and we're looking at it from all kinds of angles, from the physical angle of your actual vision, from an emotional and energetic perspective. We're looking at it from how your perspective will shift as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And then we are getting into some really vulnerable shares from me around deep perspective shifts over the past few months. So I'm so excited to share this season with you, and let's kick it off. Buenas, familia. I am so excited to be here with you. Today is a solo episode, and it's been a while since I've done one of these, so here we go. This season of the podcast has been really about perspective shifts, vision shifts, physically, energetically, spiritually, emotionally, with business, with life. We've gone through a bunch of different lenses looking at what it is to have a perspective or a vision shift. And I was thinking about how this has occurred in my life, especially over this last season. And I started getting some heavy urging to share this with you all, to share kind of my process and what I have been going through. This summer was a summer of intentional play for me, and very much focusing on being in my feminine. I moved to my beautiful new home in Seneca, South Carolina, that I love so much in May, and I am in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. My home is surrounded by trees and greenery, and I hear crickets and frogs and birds all day and all night, and I feel like a little bit of campo life. That's what we would call like jungle life, forest life, farm life, finca life in Boriquen, in Puerto Rico. So I've been craving campo life for years, and I have a little piece of it here now, which is amazing. I get to go for walks in my very hilly neighborhood surrounded by all of these huge trees, and it's lovely. 3 days after I landed here in Seneca, I was cast as the lead in a comedic play, and I haven't been on stage acting in like 7 years. So this was incredible. It felt so good to do. I felt like I was coming back to life. And in this play, a couple of major things happened. So I've been working with Ana Pereira, who was on the podcast this season as well, and I'm so excited to hear your feedback about her episode. I've been working with Ana probably like once a month this whole year, and a lot of what we do is around muscle testing. And I really love this approach to checking in on alignment, because there is literally nothing between you and what your greater intelligence is communicating to and through you when you muscle test. And when you it requires a lot of practice, and there's a lot of it's like learning to play an instrument. There's a lot of structure to get familiar with, so that then you can open up and really play. So in working with Ana, muscle testing over the summer, one of the things that came up was in order to actually be ready for the sacred union that I deeply desire and that I have confirmed through muscle testing is part of my optimal design, I need to stop waiting to no longer be alone. And when that first came up in our session, I was resistant. There were files opening, as Anna calls them, emotions coming up. I was confused, like, I've done all this. What else do I have to be doing? Like, I'm not, what? And Anna was so sweet. And she said, yeah, there are a lot of yourselves, a lot of parts of you have done all of the work and are completely ready for partnership. And there are still some selves, some parts of you that are waiting for this person to show up before taking action in the rest of your life. And so I sat with this for a while, and I started thinking about all the ways in which I was keeping myself small or not fully going after what I truly desire because I was waiting for him to show up and be part of it. And that things that came up for me in this reflection were my writing. I haven't been as devoted to my writing as my writing is calling me to be, because I've been allowing my parts of my mental and emotional space to be taken up by when is he coming? So writing, performing in general, artistic expression, let's put it that way, artistic expression in general, definitely something that I could see how I had been playing small in the waiting. My business. For 2 years, I have been trying to figure out how to shift from in-person, hands-on Brazilian lymphatic drainage work and energy work, which a lot of you have experienced with me and you love, and I've trained incredible women in doing the same work. And I know that I'm being called to offer this in a much bigger scale. And that means online. So I've been struggling, like, how do I transfer this tactile in-person experience with my hands and my energy to an online coaching container where I'm actually teaching people how to do lymphatic drainage on themselves with the hormone optimization and with nervous system resets and energetic work. And I have struggled for 2 years trying to figure out how to do this. And then the vision shift, the perspective shift, the big one. The biggest thing for me that was tied to waiting to no longer be alone was motherhood. Well, so we're gonna get really vulnerable. That's what we do here. In my next session with Anna, after the no longer waiting to be alone session, I came to her with all of the things that had been coming into my awareness, that I've been shifting perspectives on from our previous session. And I brought up motherhood. And I said, I've gone back and forth on, is motherhood for me, for a very long time. So let me take you back on this journey with me. As a teenager, I saw my mom and stepdad starting their family. And to be honest, everybody looked miserable. The house felt miserable to be in. Everyone was exhausted and snapping at each other, and there was never enough money, and stress was just palpable in the house. And it seemed to have skyrocketed when they started having children. And I love my siblings. This is nothing, like, I love them with my whole heart. I'm so blessed to have them. I'm so glad they're here. They make my life and this whole world a much better place. And as a teenager, looking at this situation and living in this situation, it was difficult and challenging. And I remember saying, I don't think I want to have kids. Like, this seems miserable. The kids are amazing, but like everything else that goes into it seems miserable. And my grandmother actually heard me say that, and she said, don't say that. You're cursing yourself. You're cursing yourself. Don't say that. Okay. So fast forward a few years, and now I think, you know what? I would be a great mom. And I could do things differently than how I saw them. So yeah, maybe kids are back on the table. Like, I think I want that. I eloped when I was 6 weeks shy of 21. No longer married, but we were together and married for 11 years. And my husband did not want children. And so eventually chose to have a vasectomy after I had a pregnancy scare, and he did not react well to it at all. And I basically said, well, I was already on birth control at that point, which I had been off for many, many years, but before I knew anything about my hormones or like lymphatic drainage or nervous system, anything, I was on birth control to supposedly help with the endometriosis. It didn't help, made it worse. That's another podcast. But anyway, I thought I might be pregnant in spite of being on birth control. And after his negative response and finding out that I was not pregnant, I said, okay, well, if you really mean this and you were going to choose the options that you said you were going to choose, I'm not doing that. So if you really mean this, then you need to get a vasectomy. And he was like, I'm down, let's do it. So he had a vasectomy, and I allowed all of his reasons for not wanting children to become my own, but they weren't my own. Okay, so then we get divorced. Now I'm 31, and I'm no longer on birth control. I had been off of birth control for probably a year and a half at that point, and I refused to go back on. And I was left with a lot of PTSD emotionally after the divorce. And in that state, I chose to have my tubes tied. What I couldn't say in the moment, and what would actually take me about 9 months to say out loud, to have the words for, was that I was terrified of being a single mom. Because for 12 and a half years, I was raised by a single mom. And I refused to repeat that part of my childhood. I love my mom. She did the best that she could with what she had. And I'm so grateful to her. And there was a lot of trauma in my childhood, and a lot of feeling like a burden, and a lot of feeling like an obligation. And I never would want my children to feel that way. So I had my tubes tied. And then about 9 months later, I was in a relationship, and my period was 2 weeks late. And I thought, I can't be pregnant. My tubes are tied. Even if I was pregnant, it wouldn't be a viable pregnancy. Took a pregnancy test anyway, and it was negative. And for the first time, seeing a negative pregnancy test filled me with deep sadness. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I was not expecting that reaction from myself at all. And I realized that I had made this huge decision, this huge choice about surgically altering my body out of fear. And I am not someone who lives their life out of fear. So when that clicked for me, I said, okay, well, I need to reverse this surgery. So I spent several years saving money to get the surgery reversed, which I did in 2021. So for the past 4 years, since 2021, I have been focusing on like preparing for motherhood, preparing my body, preparing my money, preparing energetics, for waiting for this person to show up. And honestly, it's been a lot of back and forth internally around this whole thing. And I realized that the maybe was killing me. The maybe of motherhood was affecting all of the other things all of the other ways I'd been playing small. My writing and my performing. Well, I'm not gonna invest all of my energy into this, because if I really take off and I become very well known, well, that's gonna be a whole other thing as a mom, and I don't know that. No, so let's just tamper it down a little bit. Or the business. Well, if it really took off, if I really scaled where it was helping millions of women realign themselves, I don't know that I'd have time to be the present mother that I want to be. Okay, so maybe don't invest so much energy into the business. The relationship. Putting it at the forefront. I'm 39, gotta, let's get on this. But missing the union, the divine partnership, because I was looking at motherhood. So, in talking with Anna, she said that in her workings with Treya, her mentor, and their muscle testing, they've concluded that really only 20% of the population are optimally designed to be parents. That doesn't mean that if you're the other 80%, you can't be a good or great parent. You absolutely could be. But it means that there's something else that you are optimally designed for. And by choosing to be a parent instead, there may be feelings of resentment or, at the very least, feeling very frustrated by the sacrificial challenges of motherhood. Whereas someone who is in the 20% that is optimally designed for it would likely not experience those things in the same way. So, with that also, the idea of a tribe or a village to raise children would actually happen, because most of us would have a lot more time to be there for the children in our communities that are there and for their parents. So it's not just two people doing the impossible task of raising a human to be an incredible person. It becomes the shared responsibility of the tribe, of the community, of the family, because there's more people with more time, right? So, and if you think about it, if only the 20% of people who were optimally designed to be parents had children, those children would very likely be far less scathed emotionally. They would probably have far less trauma and would more than likely be much more whole individuals much earlier on in their lives, right? So then the question came up. All right, let's muscle test. Am I optimally designed for motherhood? And the answer was no. And when I heard the no, and I got the no myself, muscle testing, and I really felt into it, there were so many emotions that came up at the same time. There was relief and grief and guilt and excitement and deep sadness and joy all at the same time. And what shifted was that this time, in making this choice, it was a definitive choice to be in alignment with what my greater intelligence is communicating. It's not made out of fear. I know that I would be a great mom. It's made out of the knowing that I am optimally designed for something else. And for me, there is no other option but moving more and more and more towards my optimal design, towards my divinely aligned life that I get to co-create. And so this is part of my co-creation, the definitive no to motherhood. And since that moment, so much has opened up. So there's another little piece to this that I want to share. My soprimano, Joey, so sobrino, primo, hermano, or nephew, cousin, brother. He is technically my cousin. He's 19 years younger than me, so he's kind of like my nephew, and we are so close that he's like my brother. He lives in Mexico, and his dad was like my dad. He was my father figure growing up. And my tío, my Uncle Paulie, died when Joey was 4. So in a lot of ways, I've been to him what his dad was to me. And his mom's Mexicana, so they moved back to Mexico about 8 years ago. And every summer, Joey comes up. I've gone to Mexico. We see each other a few times a year. And since he was a baby, and especially since his dad died, I have been planning a trip for the two of us to Boriquen, to Puerto Rico. And this summer, it happened. This summer was also the summer that Bad Bunny did his residencia in San Juan. The album from Bad Bunny, the new one, has touched the soul of so many Boricuas. Because he's talking about the actual conditions of living in this island that is experiencing the results of a combination of capitalism with government corruption and colonialism. Puerto Rico is the oldest active colony in the world. And it affects people's lives daily. People are dying every day from lack of electricity, from lack of proper medical care, from lack of resources, from natural disasters, because nothing can be imported to the island directly. Everything has to be first checked out and switched into or unloaded in a port in the mainland US, and then taxed again, and then sent to Puerto Rico, even disaster relief. So you can see how, just from an economic perspective, this creates a really dangerous situation. And the album speaks to all of that, while also speaking to how relentlessly we cling to our joy in PR. Like, we fight for it. And the album is a beautiful expression of that. He mixes reggaeton with traditional salsa, bomba y plena, and it's such an incredible gift of an album that little 5-year-old girls to abuelitas who used to think that Bad Bunny's music was way too vulgar, they were all there in La Residencia, like dancing, going crazy, crying, laughing. It's truly a movement. So, and he dropped the album on my birthday. So of course, we ended the most magical 10-day trip to PR that I've ever had with Bad Bunny. And we had floor seats, and Joey was with me for about 3 weeks in August. And between him being here with me in Seneca and going to PR and coming back, we got so much more close, and he shared his heart. He was so vulnerable with me, and we were laughing and dancing and talking, and it was amazing. And the best part for me was seeing him experience it all, seeing Boriquen for the first time as an adult through his eyes, feeling his joy. And he was with me when I had this conversation with Ana, because we had just gotten back from PR. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I just had this experience with Joey where, aren't those feelings what a mother would feel? Like, it was really confusing. So Joey had never seen the play that I wrote, produced, starred in, and won a grant from the city of New York 7 years ago. We produced it, we sold out our run. He had never seen it. And it's called La Hija de Pirata / The Pirate's Daughter. It's about 5 generations of women in my family, all descended from El Pirata Roberto Cofresí, famous Puerto Rican pirate. And he loved the play, like was obsessed with it. So after we turned it off, because he wanted to watch it, he looked at me and let me back up. I wrote this play while I was going through my divorce. And as I mentioned earlier, that I had chosen to tie my tubes at that point. So in the play, the character based on me at the end declares that she's choosing freedom over family. And that in fact, that's how she honors them. And that her legacy will be one of connection and inspiration and magic and art and expression and connecting, passing down the legacy through you, through the audience. So we turn it off and Joey looks at me and he goes, Oye, pirata, you already answered this for yourself 7 years ago. You're a storyteller. He says, be the mama to everybody by telling the stories. I mean, talk about a perspective shift. So since that call with Anna, I allowed all of this to shift my vision for my life, I have been writing more. My business that I've been struggling for 2 years to figure out how to get it online, I now have a freebie, a 6-week offer that leads into a 4-month offer, that leads into retreats. Everything that I've been working on is just right there. And I already have 5 people signed up for my market research round for the 6-week reset, and they paid for it. For a market research round? Come on. Like, there's so much evidence in my life that by moving in this way, I am moving in alignment with my optimal design. And it feels so good. It feels so good. And so I want to leave you with that today, that perspective shifts, vision shifts can feel scary and confusing. And when they're meant for you, they also feel deeply true. There's no way I could have denied the truth of what Anna and I came to in our sessions. And there's no way I could deny the truth of the effects since then. And it's okay to feel everything that comes up. And I want to encourage you that when you allow yourself to have a vision shift, when you allow yourself to have a perspective shift that is actually bringing you more into alignment with your optimal design, it is inevitable that things are going to flow and your life is going to feel more lit up and you're going to have more joy and more excitement and more love for your life that you can then give out to everyone else. So, whether you are a mom or a dad, or whether you're not choosing to have children, whether you are partnered or not, whether your business is taking off or you have no idea what that even means, you have an optimal design and you get to tap into that and allow perspectives to shift so that more of your optimal design comes through. And I am so excited to hear from you how this has shown up in your life. So please, please, please leave some comments for me. Hit me up, DM me, let me know how perspective shifts, how vision shifts have shown up in your life. Te quiero mucho. I can't wait to talk to you again. Hasta luego. Queridas, we made it to one of my favorite parts of each episode, the moment of flow. I love poetry, I love words and rhythm, and how when you mix the two, you get into a beautiful state of flow. And so I want to leave you with that at the end of each episode. So here it is, your moment of flow. Speak it. If you want something to shift, speak it. Words are magic. Speak your dreams, alchemize them into reality. Opportunity, comunidad. Have the courage to speak the vision, to vibrate your truth through your voice, through your heart, into the world.